Hello there ladies and gents, I am PrettyTAF and thank you for joining me as I walk you through the best loadout and setup for the GRAU 5.56. But before we jump into the video, if it's your first time here and you want to see the treasure trove of content I have lined up for Modern Warfare, then do help me out by liking and subscribing. Anyways, enough talk, let's get into the video. The GRAU 5.56 is the 10th Unlockable Assault Rifle added to the game as per the Season 2 update. It's unlocked level 15 of this season's Battle Pass, or if you're seeing this after Season 2 is ended, then it will be unlockable by completing a challenge, which also makes it available for usage by lower ranking players who aren't the max rank yet. My initial impressions of the weapon were unsteady. I didn't like it. It lacked stopping power at certain ranges, and the magazine capacity and max ammo reserve was pretty low, which meant unless you had Scavenger you would run out of ammo pretty quickly, and its 30 round magazine would be emptied pretty fast and you only had around 2 or 3 mags in reserve, so you'd find yourself switching to your secondary pretty often. The standard iron sights provided quite a narrow picture into what you're shooting, and the outward vision wasn't fantastic either, meaning that whilst you were ADSing, if you saw an enemy in your peripheral you'd either not see them or you'd have to react really quickly to take them out. The weapon's mobile enough. It's quite small in comparison to the other assault rifles in the game, making it feel more like an SMG than an assault rifle, and considering one of the first attachment unlocks is a smaller barrel with an integrated foregrip, it just reinforced the feeling. Typically I use this weapon for more CQB combat than medium to long range combat instead, and the loadout I'm going to show you reflects that playstyle, meaning if you wanted a hard hitting and surprisingly decent alternative to the M4, you have a good option available. So as I said earlier, this loadout is more styled towards CQB roles, or playing ground war defensive positions, kill confirmed and domination, since mobility is pretty key in these game modes. I'm going to go ahead and show you two versions of the 5.56 that I use, depending on what role that I want to use it for. So for a primary I'll have the 5.56 with a stock, or I'll have it with no stock. The secondary is the RPG. Perk 1 you're going to want Scavenger, Perk 2 is restock, and Perk 3 is spotter. The lethal can be anything you want. My personal weapon of choice is the throwing knife, and for the tactical you're going to want a stim to keep your health topped up between firefights. I normally use an RPG as a secondary because it's a dick thing to do, but I also use it for those hard to get players and for those who annoy me, or if I need to take out an aircraft or a tank in ground war. I use Scavenger to resupply ammo from dead players when I'm busy burning a hole through the magazine. I use restock, which is very important for those close shave battles, resupplying your throwing knife and when you need to keep a stim topped up for the next fight. I use spotter because how many times have you been running and gunning, charging around only to burst through a door and get blown up by a claymore? Yeah, so that perk is so you know what's around the corner. The throwing knife with the lethal of course is my personal favourite. Typically it's used when I have to reload and the enemy comes charging around the corner like a madman. And the stim is because I like kill streaks and I'm going to go ahead and assume that you do too. So firstly I'm going to show you the difference between the different variants compared to the base stat values of the 5.56. The stocked 5.56 variant compared to base has more accuracy, damage and range but slightly less mobility, and the non-stocked 5.56 variant compared to the base has more accuracy, damage, mobility, but slightly less control. Now getting onto the actual weapon attachments and the pros and cons based on the performance values. So I'm now going to show you what attachments I use for the stocked 5.56. For the barrel, I use the final one, which is the FFS 20.8 inch Nexus barrel. For the underbarrel, I use the operator foregrip. For the perk, I always use FMJ. For the ammunition, I use a 60 round magazine, and for the rear grip, I use the FTAC R89 rubber grip. If I was to summarise what these attributes have in terms of both the positive and negative effects, you have 1 plus for damage range, 1 plus for bullet velocity, 3 pluses for recoil control, +1 for bullet penetration, and +1 for magazine capacity. But this comes at a price, -3 for ADS speed, -2 for movement speed, and -1 for aiming stability. The weapon attachments for the non-stock 5.56 are the exact same except from the fact that I take off the operator foregrip from the underbarrel and instead swap it out with a no stock. If I was to summarise the impact these attachments have on the weapon, you have 1 plus to damage range, 1 plus to bullet velocity, 1 plus for recoil control, and 1 plus for bullet penetration, at the cost of only -1 movement speed and -1 ADS speed. So as I've shown you, the stocked 5.56 has worse ADS speed, movement speed, and minor aiming stability, but the pros for it definitely suit more a defensive role as I stated earlier, especially with the velocity range for bullet penetration and damage. The non-stocked 5.56 doesn't have that many drastic penalties for ADS and movement speed, but it has the damage range, velocity and recoil control for the CQB combat as you'd need. Now I have been alternating between these two variants of the 5.56, and for the most part I've been playing really well and getting good feeds and kill streaks. And so that basically, ladies and gentlemen, is the best loadout in my opinion and setup for the GRAU 5.56 in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. If you liked the video and found it useful, do leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, do you have a setup similar to mine? And how are you performing with your setup? Do let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.